So what we're doing on this project is we got a lot of nice figure going in this table. We have solid black by Chemtech. And then what you're gonna do with this stuff, you wanna stir it for 5 minutes. We're gonna stir it for 5 minutes. I got the temperature at 68 degrees, and then that's how we're gonna do the pour. This way. Oh yeah. This side. Pour it down. There we go. Fill all that up. That one, we have this one here. There we go. Yeah, extra gallon was perfect. So now what we're gonna do is I want to have enough epoxy to cover this whole top so it soaks through the pores of the wood. So you don't want to skimp on your epoxy. You just want to make sure you put it all in there, let it all soak in there, and we'll move all the epoxy around. We'll fill all the voids as much as we can. And then the epoxy, as it heats over time, it will sink. It will all fall through all the little pores and everything. So you're gonna want to make sure you have more than enough epoxy to cover the top. Now that we've poured all the epoxy, I'm going to go through and I'm going to skim all the excess epoxy and fill in all the voids. I'm going to go through here and do that for the next 5 or 10 minutes. And then we're going to let this sit for about 3 to 5 days and we'll come back and check on it. Now that we got the piece surfaced, right, we are going to start doing this Star Bond. I got Jacob over here filling up the Star Bond quick epoxy, and what we're doing is we're filling in all these little tiny cracks in here. And then we get this little accelerator, and it dries it in like 5 seconds whenever it sprays it. Once we go through all that the first time around, we will then sand it to 100 grit. After the 100 grit, we will go back and refill everything until everything is completely sanded and finished for that high quality look that we're going for. Now that we got surface to 100, we're gonna start squaring everything up. And what I do is when I make the pours, I make everything an inch wider and an inch longer in my molds. So when I cut everything down and square everything up, I can clean everything. So right now the customer wants this at 36 inches wide. So I've measured 36.5 here, 36.5 here. We clamped it down. The Festool is gonna give us our straight edge. Now that we got our one straight cut in the back, took a square, right, made sure everything was squared off, and I squared it down here. The table's 5 feet long. We did an extra inch in the form, so that was 61 inches. It's gonna be 60.5 inches here, and then we'll measure off these ends to make our 60 inches down there. Now that we've got the table all squared up and it flattened to 100 grit, it's time to round over the edges. We're going to do a 1/4 inch roundover bit. Now that we got the table of 320, black is really acceptable of scratches. You can see the real fine swirlies. So what you got to do with black is you have to wipe on and then wipe off, pretty much like that, like the Karate Kid. You're gonna sand it, and then if you don't do that, these will leave little crumbles underneath your sand pad, and it'll create swirly, it'll create loop-de-loops. So we have to do a thing of sanding and then wipe off all the epoxy dust so it doesn't crumble up under the sand pad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you can see where there's a little line right there, so I'm gonna have to go over that again and get that out.
Yep, and we'll keep doing that until all the scratches are gone.
Yep.
And then that'll be the process. It'll be about a good hour or two to keep doing that over and over and over. Okay, so now that we got the bottom sanded down and the top sanded down, we are going to start doing the legs, and we're going to do the leg placement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center. I've already did it before we started filming, so I wasn't sitting here for 10 minutes trying to find the center point of this, but I'm going to run down and show you what I did. All right, so each of the legs on each side is going to be 5 inches from the edge. So I got 5 inches from the edge here, 5 inches from the edge here. Same with this one, 11.5 inches, 11.5 inches, 11.5, 11.5. So now we know that we are centered. I marked all the holes, and then what I did when I marked the holes, well, I took a punch. And I did right down the center, and I punched it for my drill to have something to grab onto. That way, when I drill in, my drill won't slip with that little punch in there, if that makes sense. Now what I use is these little threaded inserts. Right here, these are about a 1/2 inch down, and when I get my drill bit, I'll put a piece of tape on the end of my drill bit. Put a piece on the end, tape on the end of my drill bit that goes 3/4 inches up, and that way it will mark it whenever I put in the drill hole right there. So now that everything's marked, good to go, we're going to start the drilling process. That way my tape is already marked, everything's marked, good to go, and it should be fairly simple process. All right, you just want to put just a little bit of glue. Downward pressure. There we are. Thank you guys for sitting down and watching through part 1. Please subscribe to my channel. It helps me make more content, and look out for number 2 next week.